Welcome, everybody. This is a session about censored journalism, and this is brought to you by the School of Data Journalism. So it's part of a series of workshops during the festival about data journalism. So we've done a bunch of workshops on, I don't know, how to do web scraping, how to use Twitter data through APIs, how to do data visualization, and so on. So now we're working a bit more hands-on. We brought the tables in. And we're planning to look at how to collect sensor data with these devices called arduinos. They're coming from Italy, so some of you that are Italian might know about them. So the School of Data Journalism is organized by Open Knowledge and by the European Journalism Center. It's the third edition this year. We've done it the year before and all the past years. It was very well received. We're doing hands-on trainings for journalists, both Open Knowledge and EJC. So check it out. We have a lot of other resources online. Open Knowledge has a project called School of Data that I am leading, and EJC has a project called Data-Driven Journalism. Together we've been producing the Data Journalism Handbook. So if you're into data journalism, probably that's a good resource if you haven't read it already. It's a bit old now, but it's still quite good and quite valid if you're new to data journalism. So yeah, for the School of Data Journalism, we also give certificates. So if you've attended a bunch of sessions or one session or whatever, just come to me. I'll give you a certificate if you think it's going to be useful for you. What else? We tweet about it with DDJ School. And yeah, that's it. I want to introduce very briefly Linda. So Linda is an OpenNews fellow working with The Guardian at the moment. So she's embedded in a newsroom. She's a programmer, and she helps The Guardian become more technology kind of minded and in their digital process and effort to do more digital. So I'll pass on to you, and thanks again for the amazing work.
I'll use this microphone. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm very excited because I love playing with arduinos. But before we start playing with arduinos, I just wanted to give a short introduction to sensor journalism, because you might not have heard this term a lot. It's kind of a subset of data journalism, a very specific set of data journalism where the data comes from sensors. And yeah, I mean, I already had an introduction now, but yeah, I'm Linda Sandvik. I'm a Knight-Mozilla fellow. OpenNews paid for all these arduinos. Yeah, thank you. And I'm HyperLinda on Twitter. If you have any questions afterwards, that's usually the best way to contact me. So in my previous life, before I was a Knight-Mozilla fellow, I used to be a creative technologist, which is one of these weird buzzwords that I actually have no idea what it means. But I was working a lot with interactive installations, and I was, for instance, working in an art gallery, doing a lot of things with arduinos, and I also worked with the Oslo City Council, and we made like an installation with bikes where you had to get on a bike that was stationary, but you had to pedal, and the Adrenal was calculating how fast you were pedaling, and it was a race. And we were like getting people who hadn't been on a cycle back on a cycle and things like that. We also put sensors in the rubbish bin in the city, so that when people put rubbish in the rubbish bin, it made a sound, so like Cookie Monster or something, and people loved it, and we had like a candid camera and things like that. And I always had a soldering iron on my desk. You can see it as that yellow thing in the corner. That's a soldering iron. And it was just like a part of my everyday coding environment. Like, I have my computer, but also a soldering iron. And the thing that never occurred to me was that I should bring the soldering iron to The Guardian. I didn't really think, I mean, even though I had been working with arduinos for like the past 5 years and used it like every week, it didn't even occur to me that that would be something that journalists would do. But then I went to NICAR. So NICAR is a conference. It's like National Institute for Computer-Assisted Reporting or something like that. And there were so many examples of basically data journalism where they got the data from sensors, and a lot of them was they had gotten the data themselves, like with sensors, or gotten people to collect the data on behalf of them using sensors. And that's when it started occurring to me that, oh, maybe arduinos should be just like a regular part of my work at The Guardian as well. So yeah, I just wanted to briefly talk about some of the examples that I saw at NICAR. But yeah, what are sensors? Sensors are thingamabobs that detect or measure and record data about the real world. So we have like temperature, sound, wind, humidity, acceleration, light, touch or force, proximity, motion, heart rate, blood pressure. I mean, like Fitbits and Strava apps and things are very popular now for measuring your own data. And earlier today, I did a workshop on web scraping. So that's scraping web pages for data. And sensors are kind of like you are just scraping the world around you for data. So they're pretty cool. And, you know, news organizations have been doing sensor journalism for a very long time. When I was a kid, before we had a computer at home, I used to check the back page of my local newspaper for the weather forecast, so I knew like when I could go out and play. You know, they've just gotten better. And they also have things like pollen forecasts and things now, which is good for me because I'm very allergic to hay fever, like to pollen. But this is not data that the BBC does not like collect this data itself. It gets the data from the Met Office. That's perfectly fine. You can get your sensor data from other sources. One of the things that was really, really important to me when I was a teenager was the swimming water temperature in the different lakes and beaches in Oslo where I was living at the time. This app combines data from Oslo City Council, the weather, like the Norwegian version of the Met Office, and also the Norwegian version of the BBC, the NRK. And puts, you know, all the swimming places, the public swimming places outdoors with the temperature of the water, and it tells you which one is the warmest today, so you can go there. But they also sometimes, I mean, this is not strictly news, I know, but they also sometimes did have breaking news, like they were measuring all these things in the water. Mainly the temperature was what's being reported, but then they detected all these bacteria in one of my favorite ones, and they put out a warning like, oh, do not go swimming there. A lot of my friends still did, and they got like rashes and things, so always read the news. When should you invest in own sensors and not just take data from elsewhere like the Met Office? Sometimes there just isn't any data. The data that you want might not exist. Or maybe there's data for like the national average, but you want something hyperlocal. And there are some types of data that just isn't out there. Like I know a lot of people are getting increasingly interested in air pollution around, you know, like industrial complexes. And things like that, and that's not something that they're going to do, so somebody has to go out and do it. And also, when you don't trust the data that is available. I think it's like a little bit hard for a journalist to go out and say, oh, I don't trust this government data, so I'm going to, you know, make my own. But there are some, mostly activists that do that. This was one of my favorite examples that I heard about at NICAR, which is the cicada tracker. Cicadas are these bugs that basically they return after 17 years of hibernation. And you can predict when it's going to happen based on the temperature in the ground 8 inches into the ground. So what Radiolab did with WNIC is they got a lot of people to build these monitors. So first the radio made its own prototype, and it was like $200 with an Adrenal that measured the temperature, and they wanted to get people to make their own and put it into the ground, like literally go somewhere near you, dig it into the ground, and then monitor the temperature, and then go and like record it into their website so that they can predict when the cicadas were going to come. And actually, one of the listeners or readers, depending on how you want to see it, I think they found out on Twitter, so I guess readers, managed to also find out a way of making the $200 prototype into a $12 prototype, which meant a lot more people could participate. So in the end, they had like over 1,700 data entries from over 800 locations, and they were tracking this basically as it was happening, like live data. And it's about bugs, and it's kind of cute and quirky, but the extraordinary thing is that they got so many people to build this thing. Like people who are not necessarily into electronics from before. For a lot of them, it was like the first time they even heard of an Adrenal. And I think it was like something like 40 steps in the instruction manual that you had to go through, like 40 pages. And that's a lot of effort. But they did it, and then they contributed back the data. This is what it looked like, and then you put it in a bag so it wouldn't get like destroyed by moisture and things like that, and you just stuck the temperature sensor down in the earth. It was pretty cool. So another one that they did was clock your sleep. And it's not using any fancy sensors, it's just using the cell phones that most people already have. And they were like monitoring everyone's sleeping habits, and they got a lot of data and a few interesting stories out of that. But it was basically just like a survey that you answer when you wake up, and your phone can tell when you wake up. Losing ground was a beautiful example of tracking climate change. So I'm using a little bit of a stretch here when I say sensor, but they're using a lens on a satellite to take pictures of the changing coastline. It's a type of sensor. It's just like one of those, if you haven't heard of them, you have to check it out because it's absolutely stunning and also terrifying. Just to see like how much land we are actually losing every year. And obviously, like, they don't have their own satellite. They use public or NASA. And then there were a few, like, maybe not so serious things that they also talked about at NICAR. So Travis Hartman just moved to a place between two pubs. He's a journalist, and he was very annoyed by the noise, and he kept saying, "Oh, it's so loud." But then he was like, well, how loud is it? Like, it's so loud compared to what? Like, how can we measure this? And he started measuring the noise around the city, not just next to his apartment, because that's maybe not so interesting to more people than him. But just measuring noise pollution around the city using arduinos. And Matt White had this example. So he made an Arduino thingy that measured, using the accelerometer, could measure the amount of force that was put on his luggage when going through like an airport. So he was flying to somewhere, put his Arduino in his luggage. What happens to the luggage when I can't see it? How rough are they really with my luggage? And he found out the force was something like 4.5 G, or equivalent of a free fall drop from like over a meter. So they're pretty rough for the luggage. But it's like one of those things, like you never know. You can't really know unless you're in that, but you can measure it. So yeah, those were the like maybe not so serious examples. But then there is an organization called Rainforest Connection, and they are putting like refurbished mobile phones on trees in the rainforest. And they have basically been reprogrammed to detect if there's a chainsaw sound. So if someone goes into the rainforest and tries to cut down a tree, one of these cell phones will pick up the sound and send a message, and they can know that something illegal is going on. So I thought that was a really good example of how to use sensor data, and they're trying to like roll this out everywhere. So they have like 3 pilot projects going on at the moment, and they want to basically do it everywhere so that if a tree falls in the forest, yes, you can hear it even if there's no one there. Like we'll find out. And then talking about if you don't trust the government data, Float Beijing is a project made by 2 students to measure air pollution in Beijing. And it's using a very simple sensor that they attach to a kite, and the kite also has a light on it. And it will basically be a pink light if it's like very, very bad, like do not even go outside, red for very bad, yellow for like a little bit bad, and green for it's fine, it's safe, you can go out. And this was meant for, you know, normal people can put this together themselves, put the kites up. China has a great culture for flying kites. Yeah, it's like very easy to see because you can see the light from the LED on the kite. You can just look out your window and be like, oh no, it's not safe to go outside right now. And the government has data on this, but they don't necessarily trust the government data. And yeah, they also put everything on like Google Maps. So if you can't look outside the window, you can still check on Google Maps if it's safe to go out. And this is actually something that I've been wanting to do in London. Like there has been a lot in the news recently about the fog. Well, I say fog, the smog, especially also with the Sahara sand coming in. And I cycle to work and feel so sick after cycling to work, and I was wondering, like, am I actually doing more damage to my lungs by cycling to work every day? Should I just stay in? Well, how do I find out? Like, you have to measure it somehow. No one else is going to do it. Yeah, that's it. Arduinos. What is an Arduino? Well, an Arduino is really 3 different things. So first of all, it's the Arduino board. So it's like these little microcontrollers. They're about 20 pounds each, or 22 euro, I think this one was. And they're quite small. And as far as your computer is concerned, it thinks it's like a USB device. It can talk to your computer via USB. You just need a USB cable. Those white cables there. That plugs in here and then plugs into the USB in your computer. And this is the microcontroller. And then it has analog ins and then digital pins as well for reading sensors and telling your computer about it. And you can also get like wireless shields from them, so you don't have to tell your computer specifically. You can just upload it to the cloud. And then there's also the Arduino software, which is also called Adrenal, which is basically just where you write your programs and then download them and put them on the microcontroller. And then there's like the, Arduino community. There's a website, there's tutorials, and things like that. So it's like those three things. So first of all, I want all of you to go to arduino.cc and download the Arduino software while I hand out some Arduinos and things. I think, yeah, I have about enough Arduinos for 2 per table, maybe. Do you all have computers? No. Okay, people who have computers, you can have an Adrenal. It's a workshop. Oh. Everyone can see my email. So if you go to Arduino CC and click download, so there's a Windows installer and Mac OS X installer and Linux installer.
Yes, yes, it's a wall computer. It's smaller. I think it's small. Mozilla.
Has everyone managed to install the Arduino software? Yes. Yes? Good, good. So you might be wondering about what some of the things that are handed out are. Like this thing. This is a breadboard. And it's like a handy prototyping device because it means you don't have to solder anything. So instead of soldering, we're just plugging things into this one. So these jumper wires, they just stick very easily in the breadboard. And I will show you exactly how to do it, but that's the general idea, that you just plug them in and you can take them out and you can reuse it, and you don't have to solder anything together, so it's brilliant for prototyping. And the wires come in lots of different bright colors. The colors mean absolutely nothing. They are the same. So first of all, we're going to do a little program that is called Blink. And Blink is like the hello world of the Arduino. And we are going to make an LED blink. It's so small. It doesn't get any bigger. Yeah, that's what I was trying first. Like Command Plus usually works on a web page. Okay, I'll find the web page with the program on.
Maybe you can try to switch the resolution of the screen.
Sure. That's like preferences? Preferences? Yeah. Screen preferences.
Cell 9, first tag line on cell 9.
Displays?
And then you have to uncheck scale, twice scale. Yes, this one.
Yeah, that kind of works, doesn't it? Thank you. It's better. It's better. It's not ideal, but it's better, right? So if you open, well, we can cheat. So if you open the Arduino software, you have like the menu on top. You can actually go to examples, like file examples, and basics, and blink. And that opens this program. And to download it to your board, you have to first plug the board into your USB port with this white thing. And then you click on this that says upload, which is a forward arrow for some reason. Makes so much sense. So this program Blink, what it does, it is this orange LED that is on the board, it is making it blink. This orange LED is connected to pin 13. So if you just talk about this program for a minute, you see in the beginning we just say int LED equals 13. It's just we are saying that we have a LED pin number 13. You can see the number 13 next to the LED. And then an Arduino program typically has two parts. It has the code that runs once at the beginning, and then it has the code that continues to run. I don't know how many of you are programmers. If you're all programmers, then it doesn't matter. So this part of the code is what's like initializing the board. It runs once at the beginning, and we are just saying that this pin, which is the LED pin, is the output. And then we have the second part of the program. It's a loop that continues as long as the Adrenal is plugged into a battery source. So now it's plugged into your computer, but it doesn't actually have to be plugged into your computer the entire time. It can be plugged into like a little battery pack or something, solar cell panel even, like anything, then it will just, once you have downloaded the program to the Arduino, it will just run as long as it has battery. Although one useful tip, if something goes wrong, there is a reset button down in the corner. So you can reset the program if something crashes. And what the loop is doing, the second part of the program, it is just saying that we are writing a high voltage to the LED, then we have a delay for 1 second, and then we set the voltage to low. And that is basically, it just like makes it blink. So it's high, yeah. Hi, everyone. So someone just pointed out, actually 2 groups pointed out, a problem with uploading to the Arduino, and they are sometimes a little bit temperamental. All hardware is temperamental, or so I've been told, because I studied software. And basically what is usually wrong is there are so many boards, and I should have made sure that you did this in the very beginning, but if you go to Tools, so you have the Arduino menu, if you go to Tools and Board, you should make sure that we have the Arduino Uno checked, because this is an Arduino Uno, and there are so many different boards. And then the second thing that might also be wrong is the serial port. So you will have some multiple, like you will have a few options there with the serial port. If you're on a Mac, then it's either this one or this one, but it could be any 2 of them, and nobody has been able to tell me what determines which of the 2 you have to use. But like, yeah, excellent, it works. But yeah, if you have any problem with uploading a sketch to the Arduino, it is usually either that the board is wrong or that the serial port is the wrong one. And with the serial ports, just like try all of them and see which one works. If you are tired of the tiny LED on the board, then you can try to stick a bigger LED in. So the LED has 2 legs, and I don't know if you can see it, but one leg is longer than the other leg, and the long leg is the positive leg. So if you stick the long leg into 13 and the positive leg into ground, yeah, I didn't give you LEDs. There are LEDs up here. Sorry. Yeah, and you can also see that it is very, very bright. We should be putting resistors on these LEDs, but if you don't have them in like too long, it shouldn't be a problem. If you're gonna make a project that lasts for a very long time, I would. Yeah. So the long leg is the plus, and it goes into pin 13, and the short leg is the negative, and it goes into the ground. You see where it says G and D? If anyone has any problems at any time, just like raise your hand and I will. Okay, I think the easiest way we can do that, since you can't really see my screen so well, is if we go to umlaut, air pollution. Where did I have it? Maybe Firefox. Here we go. Yeah. I am. We done blinking LED. Aren't these pretty? I love them. Like, beautiful. I love the pink LED. So, if you can go to this link, I think that's going to be the easiest. If you can see it, I can certainly make that bigger. That's the wrong thing, that gets bigger. Yeah. Can you see it now? Eh? That would have been an excellent idea if I had thought about it sooner. Well, I thought you could just follow me like coding, but it's like so hard to see. Have you all got this website? Good. So we're going to make this program now that it's very, very simple. It just reads the voltage, and then we convert the voltage into a temperature. But of course, first we have to build our circuit, which is somewhere. Wrong circuit. There it is. So I say simple, right? Can you read the scheme? Like, it's so... I don't even understand this. I've been doing Adrenos for 5 years. Like, it's so poorly drawn. But it basically says that we have to put our temperature sensor in. The temperature sensor has a ground, a voltage out, and it also has like it has 3 pins basically, and it's important which order they are in. So what we have to do is, I'm gonna get one of these. If you see the temperature sensor, it has one flat side and one round side. If you have the breadboard like this, you want to have the round side here. And, well, you don't have, it's not very important which row you put it in on, but this one has put it in so that the ground is on row 5, and the 5 volt is on row 7. So you're basically just putting the 3 legs into 3 different positions. You probably have to spread the legs a bit to get it to go in. So the circle-y bit is towards me, flat bit towards there, and it's just like one leg on each line of the breadboard. Simples, right? Simple. Yeah, 5, 6, and 7. So the middle one is on the 6. It doesn't really matter. It's just like the schematic has done it like that. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to ground our temperature sensor. I probably should have started with this really like we want to ground things before we start plugging things into voltages. So the ground is now the top leg, the one that goes there. So you want to plug in a jump wire where the top leg is, and then take it to the blue line. No, the ground is in 5, the middle one is in 6, and the bottom one is in 7.
And when we use another one of these, we put it in 5.
Yeah, put it in 5.
We have both the one leg of the temperature sensor and one of these.
Yes, yes, exactly. I will go around afterwards and help everyone. So the bottom one, the 7, you put a jump wire on line 7. And that one goes to the positive, the red line. Anywhere on the red line. And from 6, on line 6, you put one jumper wire into 6. And that goes into pin analog 0 on the Arduino. And when you've done that, you just connect the ground to the ground on the Adrenal, to the ground on the board. And you want to use the 5 volts to the positive. So with this one, you can just copy this code. Make sure you either copy all of it. Don't leave any of the characters out because you're gonna have some errors. And then you can go to the Adrenal. You can do File, New. Just opens a new one. Paste it. Upload it. And then open the serial monitor, which is this glass thing. And now it's reading the temperature. It's apparently 24 degrees in here almost. That is very warm. I'm gonna go around and help now if you need.
Okay, so definitely
circuit, so
Linda?
yeah.
Is it Fahrenheit or Celsius degrees?
It should be Celsius. Are you getting weird numbers?
Yes.
I will troubleshoot in a minute. So we are just making electricity moving around and creating
Very appreciated. We can't really survive this kind of temperature. Yes, that's a problem. But maybe it's just there is here start loop initialization here.
yeah, so it's basically we are connecting it, so it's going around. This is a circuit of flows from a node to another.
Can you play us as well? Sensor gives back a voltage, and then there is a conversion from voltage to settings here. Yes.
Okay. So it's basically
Was the board here, Linda? Was it in a browser?
yeah, it was in a browser.
Sorry, I'm trying, but I don't think I should mess with your browser. It was in another browser, of course.
Of course. I'm
Why
using
would it
all
be?
the browsers.
Okay, so
It's my fault, like I just don't sketch too many, but you need to have one that goes from this middle pin. The middle pin is the temperature sensor. To analog 0. How do you know where to pick from? I see 5D. Well, so you're getting minus 50 now, that's interesting. What else is going on here? So we have okay, so you're using temperature between 13 and we want to use the 5 volt.
How do I know that? Yes.
No, just because that's how I made the
Script. And something in the script that say,
maybe it doesn't, it just needs 5 volts. I like it this one is 3.1. And this one over here is just 5. So because it's reading the voltage, I like to read that to a temperature. So yeah, I just think the person who made this is just set that the input is a 5. If you have the input at 3, you just have to use one answer.
so here all this is 3,
Yeah, I think so.
all this is 5.
Or maybe it's the big one.
This is one. Okay. This is one.
And you can
And
try
just
to
one
hold
more.
the
Yes, we try that. And just a question, we put the two connectors in the same port, but we don't really have to use one next to it, or
you can't use the one next to it, but you can use the one on the same line. So instead you have just the same one.
the same line. Okay, so it works with lines.
There in the middle, and then line 15. So line 30 is the one that
what did she do to make it work?
Yeah, I know that in Paris, for example, there has been some measure official ones, so maybe it's not correct data, but I don't know. So yes, if you are on the case, you can maybe look at, but again, it's not something that I know that mostly try to noise. We ask people to install a little app on their smartphone that will yes. Yes, it has GPS and it has a map. So well, then you only have to try and download a map with the two sensors of the phone, and the app, install the map, and then just travel everywhere that you do on a daily basis, and everywhere they go. So you, on theory, you should be able to have a lot of privacy, unless people are in the house every day. If you are still you are able to see if they are traveling, if they are moving, if they are if you are fast on if you move fast on the street, that you probably the elevator or a bus or near the biggest streets or they could have so again but there are I'm pretty sure there are some nice spots.
It's warm in there, huh? But like, what's the journalistic application of temperature? Besides the temperature? Yeah, besides like looking at the temperature and suddenly like, oh, it's this temperature. Okay. What do we do now with this data? So Milena just asked me what is the journalistic application of knowing the temperature, which is a very good question. I mean, besides, you know, like actually reporting on the temperature, which is data that you can get from the Met Office or something anyways. It's maybe not like the most obvious one, but when I was in primary school, I was in a school that was right next to a very busy road, and there were people that came into my classroom and did a lot of science, like they measured this and that, decided you are not allowed to open your windows because there will be too much pollution in here. And then, of course, what happened was the temperature got way up. And in Norway, you have very strong, like working environment rules, like labor laws. And basically what the teachers were saying was the temperature in this room is too high for us to work in. So they went on strike. We still had to be in there. We couldn't open the windows because there was some regulation about like how much pollution you could have in the school, but not about temperature. But the result was that they actually built a tunnel over that road. So I mean that was it was in the news, and it was on TV, and it was like an actual like, this is hurting our children, we need to do something about it, and Oslo City Council actually built a tunnel. But I know that's like a very like outlier. You're probably not gonna get so many interesting news stories just like based on measuring temperature, unless we are talking about things like where is it? The cicada tracker. So the cicadas, they hatch when the ground 8 inches below the surface has been like 68 degrees Fahrenheit for a certain amount of hours. And that's how they were able to know like exactly when the cicadas were gonna come. It's maybe not a very, maybe it's a special interest news story, but you know, it's a temperature-based news story. But the thing is that there are so many sensors. The temperature one was just literally the cheapest one I could afford. And it's also like a quite simple one, you just plug it in, right? But there are so many things that you can measure. I think probably the most interesting sensor journalism you're going to get is about the environment, and possibly the environment and climate change. And air pollution. But yeah, you need a lot more sensors to detect pollutions, because you have so many different toxins and things like that.
Do you know the public lab?
Yes, I am a very big fan of public lab. My other hobby is kite mapping. So taking aerial photography using kites. I haven't attached any other sensors to the kite yet.
We had a kite mapping workshop here last year.
Amazing.
Was anybody here last year for the kite mapping workshop? Yeah, it was good. But they do as well, like they have sensor stuff. They have the
Yeah.
spectrometer and...
So we're talking about public lab, and they do a lot of like DIY hardware things. I bought my kites from there. I also have the balloon mapping kit. It's so good. I had my Easter holiday in Svalbard, if you know Svalbard, the Norwegian island that is like close to the North Pole, and did a lot of kite mapping. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, they have the spectrometry, infrared photography. But I think they're working on a lot of them as well. And that's like mainly guided by activism, maybe more than journalism. But then I've been to a few talks here at this festival that have been like linking activism and journalism, and maybe they should be a bit closer. And there's certainly overlap, and certainly a lot of potential for collaboration.
But I think one of the projects, wasn't it like mapping oil spills like across the Gulf?
Yeah, so one of the first very famous ones was like, yeah, the BP oil spill, and with the aerial photography they could basically map this is what's happening. Also in Haiti, after the earthquake, there were people who were just mapping just to see like, this is what the terrain looks like now, but also mapping to see where relief efforts have been rolled out. So they were mapping where the Red Cross and everyone had set up their stations so that people would actually find them. Yeah, so it's used a lot in activism. It's also used like in Mexico, Costa Rica to figure out or detect illegal deforestation. And a lot of the times, like if you go there with a drone is very shiny, it makes a loud noise, and it will be shot down by the security. Whereas if you're there with a kite, it is like a lot less suspicious, and you can just be like, wait, what? I'm just flying my kite, and you can get away with a lot more. I think there was recently a journalist who was arrested for trying to fly a drone over or around a prison in the US. And I think that if he had just like been flying a kite, then no one would have like batted an eyelid. Any other questions?
The next step would be that we get the data online.
Yeah.
I was wondering what's the cheapest Wi-Fi shield available?
I don't know about the cheapest one. Like, there's an official one.
Obviously, everybody's wondering what is a Wi-Fi shield.
Yeah, okay, sorry. We're a bit over time, but we're the last session anyways, so it's fine. So a Wi-Fi shield is basically, it looks like the top of the Arduino, but it has some different circuitry on it. And you just plug it into the Arduino, like all the pins will go into all the pins on the Arduino. And it can communicate over the internet. Maybe I need some coffee. But if you wanted the cheapest one, so since Arduino is open source, like all the plans are available for anyone, and there are, so that's 69. That is actually quite expensive. If you just order it from China, you'll get the board for like £10. And it's not illegal. Like it's open source.
Yes, just quick question. So you have you can build a standalone device with Wi-Fi connection and battery supply.
Yeah. So the battery is. Let me see if there are.
Can use a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it can. It has like the little thing that's turn around. What was I saying? Oh yeah, battery kits. You can just get a little box that plugs into here. And you can put any number of batteries in there depending on what voltage and things you need, maybe how many hours you need. I have, usually I'll use 4 AA batteries or something, just like normal batteries in a series.
Okay, and another quick question. Is there some graphic user interface for the Arduino devices, or everything is through lines of code?
There's a program called Fritzing. So I haven't used this myself, but this is basically you can draw things and make a program from drawing. Most people just use it to like draw what the circuit should look like, but I think you also have like a more graphical interface for the programming.
Anybody else? Well, do you have anything? Do you want to say anything else in closing, or?
Adrenals are a lot of fun. They're just like handy to make a prototype if you have an idea about any kind of sensor thing that you want to make. You can make a prototype quite cheaply, and then you can always go to someone later and say, I want 500 of these. And they can, like the Cicada project, the initial prototype was $200, but then someone just made the same exact thing for $12. Yeah, no, like who wouldn't want to scrape the world around them? It's a lot of data out there.
All right, thank you everybody. So can I ask you a favor? Can you go on schoolofdata.org/feedback? So we would love feedback, like always. If you have a minute, not necessarily now, but like we would really, really love to hear all together. Schoolofdata.org.
Data feedback. Does it come up if I just do that? I can't
Probably.
write URLs. Like who?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So School of Data is the project I am leading. Is a project that aims to teach journalists and activists on how to use data efficiently. So you have a bunch of courses and materials. Watch our blog is the thing that we update most regularly. So we'll put up a blog post about this session as well, and about all the other sessions in the School of Data Journalism. So yeah, if you go there, we would really, really appreciate some feedback from you. If you want a certificate as well, we can give you one. I don't know if you're into certificates. I'm not for sure, but many people are. And yeah, that's it. Tomorrow we have 2 more sessions. We have one in the morning, and Eva is here. Eva, do you want to say a word about your session, just because you have like a little audience here?
I don't have a promo prepared. But basically what we're going to do is take a breaking news story from last week and show how much stronger and better it can be with just a little bit of data that explains how terrorist attacks links to corruption, links to economy. So basically, instead of just breaking the news, you actually provide an explanatory, context-driven piece about underlying problems instead of just a sensational story. So we'll go through step by step how you can do that with an example from last week.
Brilliant. And the last thing we do in the School of Data Journalism, at 2:30 we have a data expedition. So if you're still around, if you don't have a plane to catch and have to go to Rome quickly, we'll meet here and we'll play with some data. So we'll have some data and we'll make some teams and we'll play with the data and hopefully we'll create some stories together. So that's it. Thanks a lot for coming. There should be